Welcome to another edition of Inside Guyana. Today, ITV camera crew, led by Jadoopat and Mr. Jonathan O'Brien. We are here in the studio of the law firm of Hughes, Fields and Stobie, situated in 62 Hatfield and Cross Streets, Georgetown, Guyana. Our guest today is the head of this law firm, Hughes, Fields and Stobie. No one other than the famous now chairman of the Alliance for Change political party also, Mr. Nigel Hughes. Sir, welcome to the program Inside Guyana.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your program.
And this is our other guest here,
welcome.
Mr.
Thank you.
Jonathan. Our program is kind of unique, Nigel, in that we always express gratitude, and Guyanese, I think, are known for expressing gratitude in most cases. That's why we offer the opportunity to our guests first to tell our viewers a little bit about themselves, the background, your parents, your family, friends, your schools, whatever you want, because those are the people who made you what you are today, or who started you off in life, and that's a form of gratitude by mentioning them. So you have that opportunity. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you have a lot to say.
No, not at all. Thank you again for allowing me to be on the program. It's difficult for me to talk about myself, but I suppose briefly, I went to school in Georgetown. I went to St. Margaret's Primary School. I then went to St. Stanislaus College when the Jesuits were there. From Saints, I went over to Bishop's High School, which used to be an all-girls school, became co-ed. I did sixth form. Then I went up to the university in London. I went to University College London, UCL. I read my first degree and my master's there. Got called to the bar in the United Kingdom in 1987. Returned home in 1988. I knew from primary school that I was going to be a lawyer because my father was a lawyer. He started this law firm, Clarence Hughes, God rest his soul. I came back, joined my father's firm, which is Hughes, Fields and Stobie. The founding partners were all here at the time, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Fields, Mr. Stobie, Stephen Fraser, Andrew Pollard, and I was the last to join for a long time before we started hiring associates. Started practice in 1988. Prior to my joining the firm was essentially a commercial firm, was exclusively a commercial firm. They did no criminal litigation. When I joined the firm, I had discussions with some people who said that you have to distinguish yourself from your father, otherwise people are going to say any success that you do achieve is because of him. So I went into uncharted territory for the firm. I started in criminal law. I did some criminal litigation, I had some successes, I was blessed, and that's it really. Essentially, the firm is still primarily a commercial firm, and I would say at least 70% of the work I do is commercial work. It's just that criminal litigation is attractive and gets the headlines, so perhaps the criminal work that I do seems to attract a lot more media attention than the commercial work. In terms of people who are significant in my life, my parents are outstanding. I lost my mother only last year in rather tragic circumstances. She died in a road accident. I have two siblings, Stuart Hughes, who's an excellent engineer, and my sister, who is a lawyer by training, but she is a designer, Elizabeth Dean Hughes. I'm fortunate enough to be married to my wife, Catherine Hughes, who is the Minister of Tourism. We've been married since 1993. She used to live in the US before we got married. I think that gives a bit of a synopsis of
do you have any kids?
I have two children, yeah. Both are in university in the United States of America. Yeah, so they're both graduating first degree next year, and then they're going on to law school.
Now they can become lawyers as well?
Yeah, not as a result of my pressure. They're independently.
So they're going to take over this law firm very soon, I guess.
Well, yeah, if they want to come back home.
Like you become president of Guyana, maybe.
I don't know about that, but I hope they come back and join the firm. Yes.
Mr. Hughes, thank you very much for that nice insight about your background. So you're a legal personality here. You have legal roots. That's your father, right? Very, very nice. But how then you became suddenly a politician, chairman of the Alliance for Change, a new political party in Guyana that caused so much of problems to the previous government, throwing them out of power, bringing a new coalition government into power. What prompted you to become a politician, since you were so good, you know, in law practice?
You're kind in saying these things. I'm a very reluctant politician. I don't really, I didn't go into politics as a result of an ambition or anything that I had. My wife was involved with the Alliance for Change from the time it got formed in 2005. I said to her then, you know, we're getting into this is problematic, you know, you're gonna, all these things will happen to you, as I predicted they did. And in 2011, I mean, they did surprisingly well in the 2006 election. They got more seats than any third party's ever gotten.
Yes, 7.
They made history. They felt depressed about it, but I thought they should have been commended for it. By the time it came around to 2011 election, I tell you how I got into politics. The AFC was having a meeting. I used to follow my wife around just to make sure that, you know, not that I could provide security, but at least I was around, that she was safe. And we went to London, never forget it, September 2011, 24th of September. And they had a public meeting, they were launching their campaign for that year in London. And I didn't plan to speak or anything of the sort. I wasn't on the agenda. I was going there to hear her and hear Kemraj and Rafael and the rest of them speak. And somewhere during the course of the afternoon, somebody said, hey, why don't you go up on the podium? If you recall, in 2011, we were at a pretty bad stage in the history of Guyana, so there was a lot of material for you to talk about. I mounted the podium, spoke for, I can't remember, 20 minutes, half an hour. It was my maiden political speech. Apparently it resonated well. AFC did even better in that election, and then there was a crisis in London, where 3 people got shot by the police. We went up, the crowd clearly was angry, but they needed just somebody to explain to them what course of action they should take. I attempted to do that by saying they should gather the evidence, take it to the police, call for a public inquiry, because, you know, the police are not entitled to shoot unarmed citizens, especially when they're not aggressive. I think as a result of attempting to assist in that process, people, I suppose, gather around people who, you know, attempt to assist. We brought down, or I brought down 2 experts to testify in the commission. We brought down a ballistic expert from the UK. I brought down a pathologist out of Trinidad, because I think it was necessary to establish that these are unarmed people who were not threatening the police, who had been shot without any legal justification. I think the people in London were sympathetic to me as a result of the time that not just me, the entire Alliance for Change gave to their struggle. And I think bit by bit, you know, I got dragged in. So after that occurred, the Alliance for Change actually offered me a membership card. I accepted it. Nobody else wanted to be the chairman of the Alliance for Change. I got the position literally by default. Literally by default. So that was it. And the second time the election came up again, I got it by default. So I've been very fortunate. So this is not a burning desire of mine to lead the country or get involved in politics. I really got in there as playing, you know, backup for my wife. That's great.
That doesn't sound, you know, really convincing to me.
But I tell you, that's how it happened.
People forced you to become chairman of a big organization like the Alliance for Change?
I was there
without
helping
you wanting to become it?
No, I was there helping them in the background. You know, I was always there. I'd go to their meetings. I think I chaired a couple of their public meetings. I was just a chair. I'd introduce public speakers and stuff. But this is not something, I mean, right. I'm sure my wife and several other people will confirm that this.
So you have many abilities. Maybe one of your abilities is the chairmanship of a political party, in addition to the
I've been lucky. I've been lucky. I've been lucky.
Mr. Nigel Hughes, we have heard many stories here in Guyana about the crime situation. We have heard in the diaspora also that there are a number of attorneys who happen to be holder of political offices. They are defending some of these criminals, and we know that there's a lot of drugs operations here, narcotics, people being caught in the plane very often in New York with drugs in their suitcase, in their pineapples, in their rum, in their cocoa, and in everything else you can think about. And you happen to be one of the attorneys who have been defending some of these criminals. How would you explain this to our viewers? You're a politician on one hand, and you're defending criminals on the others.
Okay.
So you have legislation to make to penalize convicted criminals, and there you are, you're making legislation to penalize them, and you're defending those criminals. How would you explain that? I'm sure you have an explanation.
Oh no, well, first of all, I don't think it's something I necessarily have to defend, but I will address your question in this way. First of all, I defend people who are charged with criminal offenses. I don't defend criminals. You become a criminal when you're convicted. You're not a criminal because you're charged.
Okay,
you're a criminal because you're convicted.
I got you.
So I defend people against whom the state makes allegations that they've been involved in criminal activity. Okay, that's what I do. I'm a lawyer, first and foremost. That's my profession, that's my training. If you're asking me to provide an excuse for being a lawyer, sorry, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm just clarifying. Right. So I'm a lawyer. I do politics. I didn't even say I do politics, but I'm a politician second. I'm a lawyer first. That's what I do. When I joined the Alliance for Change, which was only in 2011, I indicated that I did not intend to give up my profession. I get hired to defend people. If you find yourself in difficult circumstances and you're charged and you come to me and I have the time, and it's a case that I'm interested in doing, I will do it. I don't prejudge my clients either because of their reputations or merely because they have been charged, because otherwise you wouldn't have defense counsel. The other part of that discussion that I think is important is at the end of the day, the prosecution are really responsible for providing enough evidence to secure a conviction. All I do is defend my client to make sure that there is no evidence led against them that is either unfair, and to challenge the strength of what they present in court. You have a right. I'm not a priest. You don't come to confess your sins to me. And if you came to me, and you looked as if you were going to confess your sins to you, I'd say, I'm not really here for that. You know, the church and the masjid is down the street. So what I do is I defend. Now, there are going to be people who are going to find themselves in difficult circumstances. That's a fact. That's how life. What I do is I try to defend them in those difficult circumstances. If not, you'll be saying to me that, look, you shouldn't be a criminal defense attorney. Now, I understand from a public relations point of view, if you are a lawyer that seemed to be defending people who are charged with serious offenses by the state, then it's difficult to reconcile that with being a political leader. But I will say this, I am not an MP. I have never been in Parliament. As a matter of fact, I was only reluctantly on the list the last time. The first time I was not on the list at all in 2011. I hold no government office. I don't sit on any board. I haven't been appointed to any official position. I have no ambitions to go into Parliament. And insofar as that is concerned, I practice my profession. I have said to my party on many occasions that the second they begin to have difficulty with the discharge of my professional responsibilities, I am more than willing to say thank you very much. You know, you can find somebody else. Because I'm a lawyer. I'm not, this is not being a politician is not a burning desire of mine. What I do have a passion for is that I'd like to assist people who are in difficult circumstances, and that applies across the board. I will go travel into the interior. I will go to places where people are significantly disadvantaged, and a lot of people who have suffered brutality at the arms of the state, I have stood up and represented them. I get a drive out of that. That if I have a gift and it's in this field, that's the gift I use. But if people are uncomfortable with my being a defense litigator or a criminal defense attorney, I hear them, I appreciate them. I will attempt, as I'm doing now, to put my position in it, but I am first and foremost an attorney. And I hold zero political office other than the chairmanship of the Alliance for Change. Not in Parliament, not anywhere else.
Attorney at law. we have a serious situation in Guyana whereby the current coalition government had accused the previous administration, many members of the previous administration, of involvement in corruption. They formed a state asset recovery unit, and they have the military arm now looking into that. Would you be one of the attorneys to defend any of those persons if they're going to be charged?
You mean any
of the former government officials if they ask for your service?
My business is defending people. Insofar as I practice criminal law, my business is defending people. If you're asking me if I have a moral difficulty defending somebody because of their political office, no.
Okay. If Jagdeo comes to you and says, look,
if Mr. Jagdeo came to me
I
tomorrow,
want you to defend me for what these guys are,
and I was not put in a conflicted position, and he said, Mr. Hughes, I would like you to represent me, I would not have a difficulty representing him, because that's what I do. It may present a political difficulty for the party, and that's something that I have to take into account. But certainly as a lawyer, I would not say that I would refuse to defend anybody purely because of their politics. That's not where I sit. Certainly not where I sit.
So I hope
maybe controversial, but that's not where I sit.
I hope this advertisement will bring you a lot of clients.
No,
I only charge 10% for the fee. Mr. Chairman of the Alliance for Change, you have a very important and responsible position being the chairman of the Alliance for Change. That party, together with the AFDO, is in power. You have to deal with the economic development of this country.
Absolutely.
You have to deal with the social and cultural development of this country. What are some of the plans and programs your party have been agitating for or formulating to advise the current government that it can cause economic, social and political development?
Okay. Let me start off by a caveat. The Alliance for Change representatives in the government are at the ministerial portfolio. There are 8 of them. They're the persons who sit in cabinet, and they're the persons who are essentially responsible for creating the environment and the agenda for the political, social, and economic development. I am merely a chairman of a political party that's part of a wider alliance. The Alliance for Change is 40%, APNU, which consists of 60%, consists of several political parties. So in my individual capacity as chairman of the Alliance for Change, I don't actually have direct input or impact on the government. I have 0 impact on the government. The most I can do, and that I attempt to do, is that when the party meets at its managerial level and we are discussing policies, I share ideas, as does anybody else in that group, about it. But at the end of the day, the cabinet is responsible for the economic development. Now, we had a campaign manifesto that set out several things that we were hoping to achieve and that we are still hoping to achieve. One of those things that that I was particularly interested in is constitutional change, because I believe for too long Guyana has been a divided country. It still remains a divided country, even though we've had a change of government. And a lot of that division is there because the structures we have reward, for example, the winner takes all, which means that in our political structure, you're either in with all the power or you're out of power totally. And because the government is the single largest issue of contracts, not the private sector. Nothing can compete with the government. Just one project. If you think of Sea Defense Project, $5 billion, there's nothing the private sector does at any time they will compete. So the government per se is the largest controller of finances in Guyana. So if you have absolute power and you control the distribution of the state's resources, then of course the fight is always going to be to get that power. Now, if that is a little bit more diffused, and if you have structures in the society that guarantee equal opportunity, that guarantee protection of your rights, that guarantee the rule of law, that guarantee the distribution of powers not only from the top, but throughout the society, then we begin to get a more balanced society. And so it is not the incentive to be in government, is not a do or die situation. That's why we have problems in elections, because every time you go to an election, somebody feels they can die if they don't win. And that's because that's the way we've been for the last 50 years. Now it doesn't work. It's like having a car. If you have a 6-cylinder car, if all 6 cylinders are firing, you got a fantastic machine. You're traveling at speeds that, you know, that 3 or 4 times the legal limit. But if you're only, at any one time, you're only firing on 1 cylinder, what you doing? You're wasting time. You've got 5 cylinders sitting down. And that's the way our political structure, our constitutional political structure is. If you're in and you're with the PPP, you're going to fire in the PPP channel. If you're in and you're with the other party, you're firing the other party's channel. So at no time does Guyana itself ever fire on all its available cylinders. Now we have to change that system so that irrespective of who is there, you mustn't run out the country because I win the elections, or I mustn't run out the country because you win the elections.
Unless a thief.
Yeah, well, that's a criminal activity. But the point is, the system must not be such that your entire business model is, hey, if I lose the election tomorrow, buddy, I gone because I know the next government coming for me. That's not the way it is. Little Barbados changes the government between 12 midnight and 6 the next day, the same day of the election. We take a whole week. We cannot count the votes. And then when we count them, we can never accept them. I can't think of a single election where people accept the results. You cannot run a society like that. And part of that is driven by the fact that people know that if they're not in power, that's it.
Mr. Nigel Hughes, you're the convener of the Constitutional Reform Steering Committee. Can you tell us, you just started off me on that direction now, and that is very good of you. What are the main aspects of the constitutional reform that you envisage?
All right. Perhaps if I started by giving a little bit of a history, the constitutional reform is one of the areas that the Alliance for Change was particularly pushing, given the history of the country. So it was on our campaign, on the joint coalition campaign agenda. In August last year, after the new government was elected, the Prime Minister convened a small committee of 5 people, asked me to be the convener of that committee for the purposes of drafting or creating a framework which will be used to set up the Constitutional Reform Commission, which will then be tasked with the business of reforming the Constitution. There are many areas, but here's the problem, or here's one of the problems that we face.